The coldest water has helped us out a lot. They'll still be our sponsor for a little while longer. Use code Kendo for 10% off. Link in the description. I'm going to be using a friend's account, an old college professor of mine, Longeviton, but notice actually on the right we have somebody else's account right there that was sent to me, submitted by a viewer. I did put out a community tab post a while ago saying that you guys can absolutely send me Google Drive links to you defeating Giovanni, but the focus on my friend's account, Longeviton, that's on the left screen, is going to mostly be on Pokemon that are, well, at least 2 out of 3 going to be from recent events, but certainly in 2020, maybe a little bit of 2021, Toxicroak or Croagunk hasn't been too far off. That was actually, if we're completely honest, it was to get a different fighting type to take on Persian, since we've already shown off Machamp, we've shown off Scrafty. You could use your Conkeldurr Lucario, but I went with something that actually has, believe it or not, a less of a barrier to entry. And of course, I don't control what the viewers submit to me. Notice, of course, we've got Yuvraj. I really hope that I'm saying your name correctly, but Yuvraj did handle most of that fight, and he's at level 44, which means that his Persian, his Ho-Oh, the Machamp that was in the middle, they are going to be scaled up to be pretty high CP compared to, you know, say someone was taking it on at level 30 or level 20 something. And so the reason that the Machamp could actually do most of that fight, first off, was one of the things that goes to both accounts here, both screens that we're looking at, is when Persian has Feint Attack. So if Persian had Scratch, it can actually make pretty much some easy mincemeat of a Machamp in most cases. But when you got Feint Attack, I mean, just use your best fighting types, especially those that have a spammy moveset, and that's kind of where Toxicroak can come in. Toxicroak has crazy power, a little bit squishy, but notice this, I mean, look at that. We just got a dynamic punch off on the Golem after defeating the Persian, and we were able to break those shields and pull them out with a Mud Bomb, which is its other move that this Toxicroak has. If you can teach them both attacks, that's really great. In Team Go Rocket, a lot of the time, if you can't really overpower them just by sheer numbers of CP alone, I always set mine within the Great League level maximums, so that means below 1500 CP. And when you're doing stuff like that, really you want like a spammy moveset, moves like Power Up Punch or Mud Bomb that you saw earlier. We do have Meganium in right now, and that's actually for lack of really a better Great League level grass type that was in Longeviton's account. The idea here is that if the Golem is using Mud Slap, which that Golem was, go with your grass type, whereas if it's using Rock Throw, you can do really well with certain water types. You know, you want to obviously resist it if you're a little bit weaker. I've shown off some other Pokemon, but for example, one of them that's going to majorly resist would be Galarian Stunfisk with Muddy Water, but you obviously want to resist it while doing super effective damage. And now that we're going up against the Ho-Oh, I actually wanted to bring in a test of another Pokemon I was using on Longeviton's account, which is on the right. So you'll see that screen come up as we have the Ho-Oh in. A Pokemon that hasn't necessarily been in recent events on our right side would be Seadra, and the only thing about Seadra is that in certain cases, especially in the case of Incinerate being the fast attack that the Ho-Oh is going to be using, we also have Swampert, who was now in the recent events. That's coming in over on our left side, but Seadra is actually going to double resist Incinerate. So the thing about Incinerate, we've shown it off one time before on this channel, but just to sort of reiterate something, is that it has one of the longest, if not the longest, move animation times, which means that it's going to take so long to actually do damage to you that usually you can get a charge move before that even happens. And so with both of these fights, I do want to save the Super Rocket Radar in case I want to do any videos in the future on Longeviton's account, and so we're actually not going to defeat the Ho-Oh fully. But of course, notice what Swampert's doing right here. This is just in general a beastly Pokemon for going up against Team Go Rocket, so it's like there are several like your Lucarios and Machamp and Poliwrath, Scrafty, Swampert gonna be one of them for sure, but basically Pokemon that have had a lot of meta relevance when it comes to TGR, Team Go Rocket. And so there you go again, we almost had the Ho-Oh defeated right there, but I did want to make sure that I ran so as not to use that Super Rocket Radar. Just kind of as we're ending off here, I did want to show, of course, what was happening before, but from this perspective, you know, if you do have a Machamp that's like 2700 plus CP, you know, it can obviously go higher, and with Cross Chop, that's the move that you're going to want to use if you really want to be able to break out those shields quickly. So we want to give a thank you, but also we saw earlier with Yuvraj, that viewer submitted account, you know, he was able to take down a Machamp going up against a Machamp, but also it's going to work really well if Giovanni has Golem or Cloyster. In this case, we can see on screen in his middle spot. Cloyster going to take super effective damage from fighting types. In this case, we're not really resisting, so you know, obviously this is where other Pokemon can come into certain relevance. You could think of like Cobalion with Sacred Sword, in that it would be steel and it would resist the ice, because Cloyster can only use ice type attacks, but with Sacred Sword it would be able to do super effective damage through a charge attack, and that's a move that charges up pretty quickly. But anyway, that was just another simple demonstration Again, most of the time, the Ho-Oh wouldn't hurt too bad unless it had extra sensory against your Machamp, so if you had Rock Slide, you could actually solo run the whole thing. Again, Persian would have to have Feint Attack, so you'd be relying on certain moves. Feel free to click an end screen on screen if you have annotations on. You can see all the many ways that we've defeated President Douche Canoe, and thank you guys so much for viewing.